Earlier today, Dr. Robert Ballard, famous for his discovery of the Titanic, stopped by our studio. Let's revisit his interview to learn about his deep sea explorations.
That we see and then have translated those numbers to Mother
Dr.
Earth.
Robert Ballard is among the most accomplished and well-known of the world's deep-sea explorers. He is a former U.S. Navy officer, author, and a National Geographic Explorer in residence. He is best known for his historic discoveries of the hydrothermal vents, the sunken RMS Titanic, and the German battleship Bismarck. During his long career, he has conducted more than 120 deep-sea expeditions using the latest in exploration technology, and he is a pioneer in the early use of deep-sea diving submarines. His most recent National Geographic documentary, Alien Deep: Fires of the Creation, is showing here at the Blue Ocean Film Festival. In the documentary, Bob goes on a deep-sea journey in a one-man submersible down to the world's tallest underwater mountain off the coast of Hawaii. Dr. Ballard, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I just wanted to, I have props usually with my guests, and this prop today is actually the cover of National Geographic in December of 1985. What does this mean to you when I show it to you?
Well, it was a historic time, actually, and one always wants to be on the cover of National Geographic, so that was a thrill just in its own right.
Well, this cover, actually, I have to say my own story here. This cover was the inspiration for me to want to be a marine archaeologist and do what I'm doing today. So as I say that, what was your inspiration?
Well, actually, it was a book. National Geographic was in my life then, but the book that really touched upon me was Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yes.
And when I was growing up in San Diego, I wanted to be Captain Nemo. And my parents didn't laugh at my dream and helped it come true.
Well, Captain Nemo obviously was an inspiration for a lot of people, and that book was an amazing book and led to an amazing movie. So your father was also an engineer, if I remember correctly.
Actually started out as a cowboy. But during the war, when the war broke out, he was a cowboy in Montana where our family had homesteaded the valley of Stillwater Valley up there, and then, like so many young men, volunteered, and he became a test flight engineer with Chuck Yeager.
Oh, wow.
And I was born in Wichita, Kansas, where all oceanographers come from, but I don't remember Kansas. My eyes were opened in California. We moved shortly after the war to San Diego. And that's where this kid from Kansas was planted in the warm sands of San Diego. And that's really where I think of my home base was San Diego.
Well, so can you tell us a little bit more about growing up, and I think you're a naval officer and going on from there. And what was your first expedition? Well,
actually, it grew out of my passion. My parents, they said, well, tell us more about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. As it was Captain Nemo had a ship, the Nautilus. And they said, well, that's a submariner. So right near where I live, they took me down to Point Loma, to the submarine base there, and it was a diesel submarine. And I went aboard a diesel submarine, and I went on to become a naval officer. But then they said, well, but the Nautilus was more than just a submarine. Captain Nemo was more than just a naval officer. And I said, yeah, it had a big window. And you open the window, and you could see. And they said, well, that sounds like an oceanographer. So they took me just, again, near my house at Scripps. And I went on to become an oceanographer. But when I went to Scripps, and I toured as a little kid. And then when I was in high school, I wrote a letter to Scripps. Dear Scripps, I want to be an oceanographer. And they sent me an application to apply for a scholarship. And 53 years ago, when I was 17, I won this scholarship, and I went out on my first oceanographic cruise and was hooked for life.
Well, so in that, Titanic, obviously one of your most famous discoveries, as well as the hydrothermal vents. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite of all of those?
All of them. I mean, I am sort of an equal opportunity explorer. Although my base sciences are in the earth sciences, and first expedition to the mid-ocean ridge, Project Famous, where we helped prove the concepts of plate tectonics and discovering the hydrothermal vents and the whole new life forms and the black smokers and understanding the chemistry of the oceans. And then I went on this journey of ships, Titanic, Bismarck, Guadalcanal, Lusitania, Battle of Midway, Yorktown, PT-109. Then I went deeper into and we just got off my ship, and my ship's name is naturally the Nautilus. And we just in the last few weeks discovered an amazing series of ancient shipwrecks. So we love it all. I love all of it.
Well, one of your expeditions, actually that's the first time I ever met you, was on one of your expeditions to the Great Lakes, to the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
Amazing place.
You did 2 expeditions, 2001 and 2002, and you not only found new shipwrecks, you found these huge sinkholes.
Yes.
Well,
I'm a geologist. I like things. Sinkholes are really cool, and they're basically where you have limestone, and then when which is an ancient coral reefs, and when that limestone gets uplifted, like in Florida, the waters circulate through it and they dissolve it, and they go underground, and you get like Carlsbad Cavern is dissolved limestone, and then finally it dissolves it to a point where the roof falls in, and when the roof falls in, you create these sinkholes, and they're windows into the interior. And in the Yucatan Peninsula, they actually used them. They were called cenotes, and they used them in their religious ceremonies, and they would actually throw poor virgins in there. And divers have actually gone down, found the skeletons with the jewelry and all of that. So when we found the sinkholes in Thunder Bay, naturally my instincts was, let's go down inside, and we found all sorts of stuff. We didn't find any Mayans that had been thrown in there, but we saw, I still think, some artifacts from Native Americans.
Yeah, I think so too. So in saying that, whether it be a sinkhole or a shipwreck, obviously human remains are found on them.
Yes.
Do you feel and find that human remains makes it a sacred site?
I think it does. Certainly when we went to the Titanic, the body's eaten and the bones dissolve at those depths, and you're left with the shoes. And to me, the shoes are the tombstone. They're the tombstone. And you're not going to pick up a wallet sitting over there or jewelry next to it. In fact, just recently in the Black Sea, we found a ship from the time, the classical period, 500 BC, and it had human remains on it.
Really? Huh.
And so there it's protected because it's anoxic, but we found human remains that are 2,500 years old. So you treat them accordingly. I say you don't go to Gettysburg with a shovel, and you don't take belt buckles off the Arizona. These are important sites, and they need to be protected. That's what they're doing so marvelously well at Thunder Bay, is protecting our history. There's more history in the deep sea than all the museums of the world combined, but unfortunately, in many cases, there's no guard on the door, and we really need to worry about how much history is being lost.
So what are your thoughts on spot protection of shipwrecks that are outside of boundaries? I think
it's, again, you can't think you're going to protect every shipwreck that's ever gone to the bottom of the ocean. But if you can't protect the Titanic, then you can't protect anything. So I've sort of stood my ground on the Titanic, because I feel that if I can't protect it, then there's no way we can protect anything. But I think there's certain ships and certain battlefields that are, Guadalcanal is an underwater battlefield, marine sanctuaries. I think there's certain places, like we do on land. Yeah. We don't protect every battlefield on land, but there was historic Gettysburg you definitely want to conserve. In Pearl Harbor, the Arizona. So I think it's, you leave it up to society to decide, but clearly you need to manage not only what's above water, but what's below water.
So on your new ship, you mentioned it earlier, the Nautilus, the EV Nautilus.
Yes.
You use some of the best underwater technology, do some of the best research. You bring the best archaeologists on board, the best researchers on board. But the other thing I find special about the work that you do, because I'm an educator, is the fact that you were one of the first people to want to bring that experience to the masses, and not only to the masses, but to children in classrooms.
Right, and the Jason Project is now, I don't know what year we're going into, maybe the 27th year, but the Jason Project is alive and well. There's over 1 million children in it. We've also got an after-school program with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We go into museums, aquariums, and science. On the Nautilus at all times are educators. We have a studio aboard the ship. We broadcast hundreds and hundreds of shows during our expeditions to museums, aquariums, and science centers, to Thunder Bay's Interpretive Center. And this is really bringing kids into an awareness of the oceans and hopefully stimulating them and motivating them to follow careers in STEM education. And it's very important to our country if we need to get kids to be competitive in STEM education. And it isn't the money. We put more money into a kid than you can imagine. It's motivating them and exciting them. And that's what we try to do with our Corps of Exploration, we call them, on the Nautilus, which are now 45% young ladies.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm very proud of that.
Wonderful. So they want to be the next Robert
Well, we're
Ballard.
going to 55, but right now we're 45.
So, and also in saying that, you built this amazing center called the Inner Space Center, not the Outer Space Center, but the Inner Space Center.
Absolutely.
And at the University of Rhode Island, there's a photo of it right there.
Yep.
I have visited. It's an amazing place, and there's amazing people working there. Dr. Dwight Coleman runs it.
He was one of my first graduate students.
Yeah, so
Was Dwight.
well,
he worked in Thunder Bay.
Yes, he did.
He did his thesis
on Thunder Bay. Well, here's a shot inside, and these amazing screens that bring these live feeds from the Nautilus and the Okeanos, a NOAA vessel,
right,
into the Inner Space Center. But the Inner Space Center is actually our partner on this broadcast.
Well, they are, and
Yeah.
I want to thank them. For,
Yeah. I want to thank them.
They are so cool. We do. That's my home as well.
Yeah.
We're just above the Inner Space Center in the Center for Ocean Exploration, and so they call us if something's going on, and we just walk across the hall. We have a command center, so they can beam us aboard the ship. It's really cool. So I can do what I'm normally doing, and then all of a sudden my cell phone goes off, and it says, and they can actually put it on my iPhone or my iPad, but then they can, you just walk down to the Inner Space Center, put on the headset, you're aboard the ship.
There it is. Very, very cool. So the reason why you're here today, though,
Yes.
is because of the Blue Ocean Film Festival.
Yes.
And I hear that your new film, Alien Deep, is showing here at Blue.
Yeah, we're up for 5 or 6 of the awards.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we're very excited about them.
It's really amazing. I can't wait to see it.
Right.
And of course, at the award ceremony, see you win the awards. But so
We'll see.
we actually have a trailer, and we're gonna show it.
Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean,
Yeah, you got terrain 40 meters on either side.
Dr. Robert Ballard is venturing into a world few people get to see.
We're at Malawi.
To an active undersea volcano where new land and ocean are being born.
People want me to tell you, well, what are you going to find? Or whatever. Well, that's just not good enough. What do you mean that's not good enough? Well, you don't know what you're going to find? If I did, I wouldn't be going.
What Ballard does know is that he's about to enter one of the most lethal places on Earth.
If I have a problem in my submarine, and if it fails, it goes off like a bomb.
It's not just sub-failures Ballard has to worry about. His quest will take him down into the crushing abyss, to the explosive volcanic source of Hawaii's next island.
So you actually went down in the submersible itself.
Oh yeah, I've been diving in deep diving submarines now for 40-some years, and I've actually mostly now do it with robots. It's a lot safer, but I get that nostalgic. Once in a while to go down in the submarine.
Right, that Shackleton feel of, I've got to go back.
Yeah, but I enjoy it, but I do most of my work now with remotely operated
Top.
vehicles.
Okay. Well, Bob, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I have one last question.
Yep.
All of us have to thank the ocean for something. What do you thank the ocean for?
Oh, everything. I mean, it's been in my blood. As you know, our body's made of seawater. And it's been in my blood since I was born, and I want to continue doing it forever and ever.
Well, thank you so much for coming to join
My
us.
pleasure.
I really
Nice to
appreciate
see
it.
you.